War sucks. At the moment, we are experiencing a cost of living crisis due to shortages of almost all essential things in life. But that is only because of one war. So will there really be another war in Europe? We'll tell you this and more in a second, but let us introduce ourselves first. World's News is a channel dedicated to delivering news on a weekly basis. Within each video, we try to pick out the most important or funniest news and explain their origins, development, as well as possible outcomes to inform you about the world you're living in. But let's hear if Greece and Turkey are going to rule 2022 even more. So, will there be a war between Greece and Turkey? You've maybe heard of the rumors that there could be a war between Turkey and Greece. But how likely is another war in Europe when there's already one war raging there? So if we have a look at the Turkish-Greek history, we see that there have always been tensions between these two states. According to Ryan Gengeras, a professor in the Department of National Security Affairs at the Naval Postgraduate School and an expert on Turkish, Balkan and Middle East history, mutual hostility is nothing new in the Turkish-Greek relations. Acts of provocation as well as outright conflict have long beset ties between the two states. Or to be more specific, Turkey and Greece both make overlapping territorial claims in the Mediterranean and Aegean regions, as well as access to the resources in and around Cyprus. But when the Russia-Ukrainian war started back in February, these tensions had eased until now. Because now these tensions escalated after a bunch of events which I'll now explain to you. Shortly after the Russia-Ukrainian war had started, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis met in Istanbul, Turkey to discuss further actions. In that meeting, both states agreed on focusing on positive agendas which would benefit both nations. Since the meeting, however, relations between Turkey and Greece have deteriorated rapidly. At the end of 2022, Athens reported an unprecedented number of airspace violations by armed Turkish aircrafts over Greece's Aegean islands, which, as we stated earlier, are among the territory both states claim for themselves. Then, during an official visit to Washington, Mitsotakis cited Turkey's behavior in lobbying Congress to oppose the sale of F-16s, a type of armed military aircraft, to Ankara, which by the way is the Turkish capital. Erdogan then responded by stating that he would no longer recognize the Greek Prime Minister, therefore ending the possibility of future direct talks. So after this little history lesson, we now know that there isn't an easy solution to this problem, especially now as negotiations between Erdogan and Mitsotakis have become almost impossible. But starting a war wouldn't be as easy as it was for Russia and Ukraine, since both Greece and Turkey are NATO members. And for those who don't know, NATO is a security alliance of 30 countries with the goal of safeguarding their allies' freedom and security by political and military means. That means if a NATO member was attacked by another country, entire NATO would protect their ally. But what would happen if both parties in the war are NATO members? So I know this sounds stupid, but there's nothing about such a case in the treaty. Article 5 net only states what was already said, that an attack against one NATO member should be considered an attack against all. So even top experts on this topic can only try to interpret a solution to this problem. One possibility is that Article 5 net doesn't distinguish between NATO members and external attacking parties. In this case, the allied forces would help whoever was attacked and is therefore playing the passive role in this conflict. Another possibility can be explained with Article 8 net. This article states, quote, "Each party undertakes not to enter into any international engagement in conflict with this treaty," quote end. In that case, the attacking country would breach the treaty and therefore be excluded from it, leaving the same outcome as Article 5 net. Everyone against the troublemaker. And let's face it, even Putin can't win against the allied forces, especially because of the US. So Turkey shouldn't start a war if it wants its existence to continue, but neither should Greece. So to conclude this topic, there probably won't be a Turkish-Greek war, and even if there was, it would probably be over within a few months, if not weeks. How a man married a crocodile. People marry all different sorts of things. But first, let's look at weird weddings in the past. In 1979, Ija Rita Berliner Mauer married the Berlin Wall in, surprise surprise, Berlin, Germany. This wall separated East Germany from West Germany until 1989. Her last name, Berliner Mauer, is German and means Berlin Wall. Then, in 2008, Erika La Tour Eiffel married the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France, and her last name La Tour Eiffel is French and means Eiffel Tower. Oh, and Mrs. La Tour Eiffel is convinced that the Eiffel Tower is a woman. But now to something less renowned. In 2009, 34-year-old Amy Wolf married her husband, a gondola ride named 1001 Nachts. Since she was 13 years old, she has ridden this roller coaster over 3,000 times. And if you want to see some comedic gold, visit the site where I got the information from, because their phrasing really is something else. But back to our original topic. On June 30th, Victor Hugo Sosa, the mayor of Oaxaca, a small Mexican town, married the Crocodile. Now, I have several questions. So first of all, why? And second, is this legal? To the first question, this marriage was an age-old indigenous ritual. In their culture, the 7-year-old reptile is believed to represent Mother Earth. So the marriage basically symbolizes the bond between nature and mankind. And second, is this legal? Since this is a cultural thing and doesn't really harm the animal, you can't really ban this ritual. And apart from that, a crocodile in a bride's dress looks pretty adorable, doesn't it? I mean, sure, there are probably some animal rights activists protesting against this, but as we know from the past, banning specific cultures isn't exactly the most humane thing to do. Cities painting their streets white. No, this isn't a racist thing. But for real, why on earth would you paint streets white? I mean, it won't even look good when the road gets dirty or rubber stains from the wheels. So why did they do this? Well, the answer to this is fairly simple. They paint roads white to reduce heat. In most warmer areas on Earth, heat has become a bigger and bigger problem, also due to the fact that water shortage is becoming a bigger and bigger issue as well. But if you want to learn more about that, check out our last video, where we explained why we have water shortage and how we could possibly solve this problem. But back to the topic. So the cities get warmer and warmer, which obviously is a problem since the human body shouldn't get too warm if you want to survive the next days. But we don't have to worry. Our scientists got our backs. They realized that dark colors like the color of asphalt absorb almost all wavelengths of light. The asphalt can therefore heat up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit or around 30 degrees Celsius warmer than the surrounding air. That's why the suburbs and warm cities are also called urban heat islands. To tackle this problem, several cities like Los Angeles, for example, started painting their streets white to reduce the absorbed light and heat to a minimum. And of course, they didn't just use regular paint, since that wouldn't work as road surface. They used a special asphalt mixture called Cool Seal. Seems quite logical, doesn't it? But another question that the scientists should have asked themselves is where the reflected sunlight goes. I mean, sure, the streets are colder, but the reflected sunlight is absorbed by the things on the streets or cool pavements, as the new white sidewalks are called. This causes people on cool pavements to feel up to 7 degrees Fahrenheit or 3 degrees Celsius warmer compared to people on normal blacktops. So once again, another one of humanity's tasks has failed. And we'll have to look for another solution. And maybe this time think about side effects. Well, these were some news, right? Now, if you want to support us, feel free to like and subscribe or to leave a comment on how we can improve our content. But now to this week's bonus fact. I'm sure most of you know this, but alcohol can really limit your physical abilities, as this guy in Worcester clearly shows.